I am ready when you are.
Alrighty. All right, let's get ourselves going here. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee. Everyone will stand and say the pledge of allegiance. Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. All right, let's see. Got a roll call. We've got Marty here. We've got Tom Shaner here. We've got Alan Steinbeck, myself, Peggy Hall, and we've got Ed Hedges. And John Barry had given his apologies. He come up, but he could not attend today. We have public comment?
Yes. One, Mr. Bob Geppert, under agenda, I don't know if it's agenda or non, but it's tax info.
Got it, thank you.
3 minutes, Mr. Geppert. Have one for the record.
Hi, Bob Geppert from Monticello. What I put in front of you is just an information piece, and it is the impact of all of the various fees, taxes, et cetera, that I pay as a homeowner in Pelican Preserve. And particularly of emphasis for this particular group is the Lee County annual valorem taxes and non-ad valorem. And that's what we have been paying since 2009, what I have been paying.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start at the Lee County tax, it started at $8,000. It is, then I got homeowners homestead exemption, so it dropped to $6,400 in 08. And if you go forward to 24, which is the most recent, I'm at $6,400 08. And the amount of change per year, as you can see, that we are primarily charged with by this group, PPAC, has ranged from the absolute high of 9 point, well, actually reduction. We've had very, very few increases, nothing over 3%, I think, in all that time. 1 year in 2013, it was up 4. So as we're talking about cutting costs, I know, Marty, you want to do that. Just be mindful that this group has been particularly reasonable in its assessments. And the non-ad valorem was over on the other side. And we've got, you know, some things there with GSCDD, and the prices even over there are very, very modest. We had 1 or 2 jumps of 8 or 9%, but in general, they've been in below 3% range. So that's all. Just wanted to share with you. Also got the HOA fees and my particular Monticello fees. Just information, you can forget about it, but we've done a heck of a good job over time. Thank you.
Hey, Bob, your non-ad valorem, did that include the 2013 bond or
It's
not?
whatever's in my tax bill.
Because there are 2 separate items in your.
If it's in my total tax, what I paid, and yes, you're right, that's in there, the 166,
Okay.
that it's on here. Ben, this was just made basically for me. So anything that I paid is in here.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Any other public comments?
No, ma'am.
All right. We've got minutes to approve. We got the January 23rd, 2025 Safety and Security meeting minutes, and that was approved by the subcommittee.
Make a motion to approve the Safety and Security Subcommittee meeting minutes.
Marty has made the motion. Any second?
Second with a question.
Yeah.
Do we approve or do we receive?
It's a very good
Both.
question.
Both? Because
Yes.
how do we approve them if we weren't there is why I'm asking.
They're your subcommittee.
Okay.
We
So-
accept them. I
All right, yeah, that's where I'm going. Okay.
guess. Okay, so is that a second from you? then?
That's fine.
Okay, Tom has seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed.
Peggy, on your next item, the attorney did review the minutes for February 13th and had some minor changes since publishing. And I have a copy of that if anybody would like to see. But we have incorporated his changes. They just include some technique, should have been technology, instead of withdrawn, was withdrew. So just some grammar edits.
Grammar edits,
But
okay.
if you'd like to see, I would be more than happy to pass them around.
Okay. Anybody want to look at those further?
So I would just ask if there's a motion that's as amended.
as amended. And could I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Moved as amended,
I'll second.
second by Alan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, minutes are done. Now we move into financials. Let's start with the district report. I'd say Laura, but Laura's not here.
She's not, but if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to take a stab at answering them.
Okay. We are roughly what? October, November, December, January, February. I'm counting on my fingers.
41.6%.
41.6%. Any questions on anything on here?
I have none.
We're still seeing nothing that's been moved yet because we haven't
No.
gotten the audited books yet.
Right.
So maybe let's wait and have more of the discussion with Ed's.
So at the April 17th board meeting, we will have Stephen Bloom there to give his financial quarterly report. And we will also have a resolution doing a final budget amendment for FY 2024. That should have been done last November. It was not done. It was communication issues. Since then, I will tell you, like we put in the board's agenda, every time that Stephen Bloom does a quarterly report, if there is a budget amendment necessary, we will be doing it at that time because it requires a resolution. So historically in the past, the board's really only done one budget amendment to ratify all of the changes throughout all of the funds at the end of the fiscal year. We received it, and then the board canceled the second November meeting, so we wouldn't have made the November 15th deadline regardless. But since then, we've changed our processes and procedures to make sure that does not occur again.
So we will see periodic changes approved by the board as we move forward. We won't be left with this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I like that. I'm glad of that. Thank you.
I know it sounds like a broken record, but I keep asking this, on the unassigned reserves. We still don't see a list unless there is none, of committed money to come out of that. So how much do we actually have in unassigned reserves that's not committed?
Okay. I know that there, and that's part of this whole quarterly, if you guys have moved money and authorized the move of money, that number, you'll start to see that quarterly. So once those monies get moved, you'll know what your true unassigned reserves are. Those should be in the financial reports that we get monthly from Infomark, but I can make a note to have Laura follow up on that.
I mean, they are noted in the individual groups, but it's not in the totals.
Okay.
Chelsea, when the audit comes in, will there be as part of the board agenda, the financial report or that shows what was actually spent for the budget item? Because I don't think there was last year. It was just his.
It's just his audit report, which will be at the 17th meeting.
But how do we know what was actually spent in any one of the different budget items after the audit is done? Things are moved around.
So you're looking for within the Pelican fund, right? For projects and things like that, or like the specific?
Well, each of the line items, what each of the line items were as audited.
Okay.
Because what we have as of the end of September were the unaudited financials, but we never see, or last year we didn't ever see what the true audited financials were.
So just so I'm clear at your request, I think I'm interpreting is you're looking for our budget document in final form post-audit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll reach out to Stephen Bloom and see if they have that.
It's the monthly financial report.
Yeah.
We never really seemed to know what the actual numbers were once they
Yeah.
made any change. I don't think there were any significant changes last year, but.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. I think that's something good to bring at the end.
And I don't know if the question's ever been asked, but when we have an annual budget of $654, what actually came in from the taxes?
That is reported in every month's financial statements. So Stephen Bloom, at the very last of the financial report that we have percentage collected and it has a dollar amount.
Okay. What we don't see here, what we
No,
have.
you have asked for a condensed version of your budget. But it'll be on next, when we release the budget or the agenda packet tomorrow. The financials for up through March are included.
And we'll be able to easily identify what was under the Pelican Preserve.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think at the end of February, it was like 94% of the assessments had been collected, something like that.
I think it's like the dead last page of that financial report.
And I did ask if that's standard, and they said that's pretty typical, that it would be at that 96%.
A
Is
lot
that
of
what it comes at the end of the year?
Well,
Or is it?
it comes in whenever the people are paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Definitely
people-
front loaded.
November, October.
Right.
a lot of people try to utilize that discount, and so we see a lot come in, but he tracks it throughout the entire fiscal year.
And if people have their house for sale, they probably delay paying as long as possible.
Right.
Any other comments on the financial report? Let's move to Ed's.
It's pretty much the same. I'm just trying to keep track
I'm trying.
of, you know, some of the transfers and projected transfers to see where things are at. If you, as of the end of February, you know, the financial report showed an unassigned of 2.1 million. If you look down, our 25 unspent budget is 2.9 million. So that just shows the need to make some of these transfers and adjustments that need to be made out of our capital reserves to pay off the bond, which that hasn't occurred yet, and some of the other clawback of the landscaping. But it shows that we have about 360,000 in fund surplus. Some of that, look over to the right, I've got a note there that as of the end of February, we'd received 80,000 in investment interest year to date. So that's why that number's gone up from 250, 275, whatever it was a couple months ago, to the 360, because we are actually gaining investment revenue. So hopefully in the next couple months here with the audit and some of these transfers, then
We'll settle on a
we'll
little bit.
settle out on some of this a little better.
Great. Any other questions? We'll talk more money in the budget discussion. Where's Doug? Doug, do you want to do a ponds update? Okay. Thank you.
This is the financials. If you look at the encumbered number, it's 342. Those are, most of them are the contracts that we already have in place to do the maintenance. And there's also 196 for the, that's a contract for 47, Pond 47 restoration is already in there. So that even though the 27.4 left, looks like a small number for where we're at. Most of the expenses are already in the encumbered. And the other thing, I don't have the exact number, was I think it was $100 and some thousand for Pond 48 that was coming for, that we voted on, that you voted on, except for Martin. Martin voted against doing both ponds, but that was approved at a prior meeting, and that's not in here.
And we decided to let that float.
Right.
With the year.
We'll let that float until we know, because it could end up being the next year, depending upon when they complete it and when they get paid and stuff like that. So this looks like we're in bad shape if you looked at the 27%, but we're not. Okay? I'll just go through the rest real quickly, Kyle. I got too much here, but you got a short agenda.
Yeah.
Pond 47 restoration started this week. That with Extreme Divers. The only thing I will say is it came up with the president's, there's a detour sign up there. It's not for the road, it's for the sidewalk, and people thought the detour sign was for the road. One lane is blocked off, but there's still a lane to get around. But there is a detour sign up there, but it has nothing to do with the road. It has to do with the sidewalk.
Yeah. Chelsea, couldn't we request that they just remove those detour for pedestrian signs?
They're required per the MOT plan. I'll talk to Daniel about that. We just don't I haven't personally been out there to see it myself,
It's just,
but,
there's a little person walking
uh-huh,
and then it just says big detour sign.
okay.
So people are getting confused because it's on the corner of,
And the arrow's pointing weird directions.
yeah.
Oh, speaking of, there he is.
Daniel?
The pedestrian detour signs can be removed.
If the sidewalk's closed down, no,
Okay, all right,
but there's the adjacent sidewalk on the other side.
all right. But it's the detour signs themselves that are causing people pause. Is there any way that we can say pedestrian only at the top of it? I know there's the little figure on it, but do we have anything like that we could?
I can see what.
Okay, I
Magic
mean,
marker.
And
people will get used to it, I recognize that, but we did get some pushback at the HOA President's Council
People are
this
still
one.
walking down the sidewalk anyhow.
I did yesterday.
You show it at your own risk.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
There's not a lot of equipment. It's really only closing down the lane for material drop off. Once those trucks are in or out, big truck, person, they're gonna steer clear of it as they're making those drop offs. I just hope so.
Okay.
It's more so just a safety precaution for notification to the public, so.
Well, we've communicated the concern that was voiced to us, and so if you can do anything about it, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I think some places,
Before
when they
you,
block them off, it's like sidewalk closed or something like that, so it's a little more than just use other side or other. I think.
before you leave the subject of signs, there are 2 signs on the circle at Prado Pastoria that are like labor signs. They're pretty hostile. Why are they there if they're in, somebody said that they are there immediately.
Those are there for the meter replacement project.
Okay.
It's just a notification sign and then the regulatory requirement for posting for that project.
Those will be removed once they move out of your community, but because of the funding source of that project, we are required to have those
All right.
staked on.
Somebody said that they were in relationship to the ponds, and I said, well, they totally misplaced that.
Yep.
All right,
No, they
thank
were
you.
not.
2 different projects. You'll
Yeah.
also see a variable message board go up here soon as we get to Ravenna, as I start on the road. Just for notification of what time and projects, there will be a message board. That's all that's going to go.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Where,
Dan.
where are we all supposed to park our cars?
Question. There, at all times, one of the lanes will be open to be able to drive on. The only time that it really limits anybody driving is when they spray tack down, and it's like a 3-hour curing time. They're gonna lay sand on the driveways as well, so that you don't track into your driveway.
Marty, we're working on communication for all of those specific questions.
So I'm not on the road that's being paved, I'm adjacent to the road.
He has to drive on the road that's being paved.
Okay, well,
Just like what they did at Brad.
Yeah.
Exactly what they did in Ravenna.
so we'll,
Same company and all.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I was just going to mention, and just stay for a minute, Daniel, because I don't know how to do
Nice
that.
try, nice try.
Regional Southwest Water Management came in to audit in some of our conservation areas. There were some deficiencies or whatever issues found, and some of them have been resolved. In '06 by the boardwalk, there was some water grass or with
Water lettuce.
water lettuce, small, it's always been there since I can remember, but that was one of the things, and some 2x4s that were thrown into the thing when they did some work. Was, all that has been resolved by our Solitude. But in '08, which is the one by the pump house, there's still a lot of debris. It's used by, Ameriscape uses that, the dump trash. They had 2 trailers that were all the way into the conservation area. It's killed a lot of the conservation area. It's going to have to be some of that replanted. But the biggest issue I have there right now, Ameriscape's been notified by Mark, since it wasn't the, his common area where the stuff came from. So they should clean that up, but there is you said it was from, what hurricane was it from?
I believe it was Ian.
Okay.
Well, it might have been even before that. It might have
What,
been.
well, there's a big light post, what is it, 15-foot tall, that are concrete. They're probably, I don't know how many pounds, they're in the hundreds of pounds, that, with a broken light, and they just threw it into the preserve right there, right into that '08 preserve. I don't know how, it's very, very heavy. I don't know who put it there, but it's in there. I don't know how to get it out. It's not light, and I don't know how you would dispose of it. That's what I was going to ask you, Daniel. What are your
I can work with Bentley Electric to pull it
But I think it might have been Ameriscape that did it because they did the cleanup after the hurricane. She mentioned to me that it was taken
It was
down
one of the
during the
three from the
hurricane.
hurricane.
And when they cleaned it up, instead of taking it away, they just throw it in. It's a dump. They use that end there as a dump.
All right, so ultimately, this letter came, we knew this letter was coming because of,
Yeah.
it was a direct result of our modification permit to South Florida Water Management District. They did notify Passarella on site the day of the inspection and saying, hey, we observed this, we have to report this, you'll have a letter forthcoming. That letter was addressed to me this week. We have 30 days to come into compliance. Regardless of who did it, we have to come into compliance. I know historically, we've used South Florida Water Management District as kind of our second set of eyes of, are we good or are we not good? It is my goal to never have them come out here and give us this type of letter. So, and secondly, we'll be following up if, like Doug said, and I know a lot of you have been around through these hurricanes, if Ameriscape is using it in that form or fashion, we will be sending them a formal letter that is unacceptable, it's not their property, cease,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff.
Mark sent him a letter last night, because I had copied him and Jennifer. See, I thought Jennifer might be from security from the light. And Mark sent Ameriscape not a formal letter, but a letter. So you could follow that. It wasn't what I would call anything that it had in there, we would be fined. That was in
Yes.
his letter. But I'll forward to you, okay? The next thing is the ponds contracts. All of our contracts for maintenance are up for renewal. We voted at our ponds group to give authorization to some smaller groups to work through the contracts, to come up with them. The first one, littoral management, will be a formal bid, and Jim Latham has a group. Only one member from the board, Jim, is with that group, but he also has Harold and Al Slicker are helping him with that, and that'll be a formal bid. They pretty well have a lot of the specs already done. We started with what Gateway did their littoral management just recently, and we used their requirements. And then Jim modified it a little, so we weren't starting with a blank sheet of paper. We were starting with what they did for that. That's what we're doing with littorals. And our board voted, or our group, the subgroup voted to give that authority to Jim and that group to come back and make the modifications for the formal bid. Okay? The whole group will vote once the bid is released and who is awarded it. The whole group will vote on that for recommendations, but instead of having everyone working on it, that group is doing that. I'm doing the conservation area, and I'm doing that with Harold Dagnow. And we started with, in 2021, we did a formal bid on that for Pelican Preserve for our conservation area. That's where the specs have started with, is from that. We will use the ITQ process for that because the size is underneath the threshold, so we can use that process. And like I said, we're starting with the specs from the formal bid we did in 2021. The last one is aeration and fountain management. That's a little more work. We're taking some of the specs from the current contracts. The contracts we have in place for that actually are the vendors' contracts. There are no terms in those contracts for gateway, what I consider gateway terms. No terms are in there. So, but we're starting with the actual, I'll call it, terms that tell them what work we need done. And then what would you call them? Your terms are more front end terms that are in all the contracts. Again, that's the ITQ process for that. All three of these will be 3-year contracts with the option for 2 more. So there'll be 5, hopefully 5 years.
And what's your timeline for that?
They have to be done by the end of September. That formal one should be, I mean, I think we're getting close, at least on conservation and the littoral. We're getting close to what we documented could be started in that process, but they have to be completed because our current contracts expire at the end of September. Okay? Any questions? Okay, We also talked about the handicap possibility of handicap access to the boardwalk. I know the district has requested Regional Southwest Water Management to change the permit to allow that for handicap golf cart access. And it's not been approved, just so you know. I'm not saying it's not been approved, but we're going through what we need to do if it did get approved. And to start with, it'd be money, but we'll cover that later.
Always starts with money. It always starts with money.
Yeah, you can do a lot with no money.
Yeah.
What's the holdup?
Huh?
What's the holdup with getting it approved?
So there's no holdup. They have 30 days to respond. And so they typically wait to day 29 or 30 to send their response. So we're waiting on that, but we anticipate award or approval any day now.
Thank you.
Next things we'll go through pretty quickly. We need more volunteers. We had about 6 people leave, not leave the community. So we could use some more volunteers. And the other thing is Daniel and I are going to do a better job of communicating the WEIR status so the community knows where the WEIR status is. That's all that is.
We just need rain.
Yeah. Right now,
Not
you're
yet.
right.
Not yet.
Martin, that's exactly what we need. This is a kudo to Chelsea, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. That's a program that's a FEMA program. And Chelsea's worked with Gateway in the past to get some of this money for their pond bank restorations. And we've got some information to Chelsea and staff, and we're going to apply for the grant. We're just applying. But if it was approved, it's when you look at the bottom line, it's $8 million. We would have covered that probably over 15 years. This would allow us to get the pond restoration done quickly. They fund 75% of it. They fund 75% of it. We have to come up with 25. There might be a way to reduce that 25, but I'm just assuming we're going to have to come up with 25. But I told the presidents today that we applied for this. I gave you credit. So, and I gave, right? I gave you and Gateway credit for this. And I put it in perspective. If you took 8 million times 75% times 2,500 homes, it's roughly $2,500 a home if this was covered, savings, okay? Which is not a small number. It's not a small number. And Chelsea, thank you for your help on that. It's not approved, don't get me wrong.
Don't thank me until we get the award.
Yeah, that's right. But we wouldn't even have applied. We
So,
wouldn't even applied if Chelsea had not brought that forward.
so
Yeah.
this is Marty. So what are we doing to get more volunteers?
We recruit through our social media platforms, and we share to Pelican and ask that Pelican shares to.
I was going to say it's our group's responsibility to be able to recruit new members, and we'll use communications within either the district or PPCA and our people talking to their friends, anyone that shows interest. But I think at the end of the day, it's my group's responsibility to get volunteers. That doesn't fall on anyone else's shoulders.
Can we get an update next month then also?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, Doug and Chelsea, is this a state grant that you're looking at or a federal grant?
Federal, it's FEMA.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, that's what Peggy already has said. The money, even if you got awarded, could be taken away, as we've seen in other areas. So we've not spent this money. Our strategy will still be to go slow, do a half a pond. On the bigger ponds, do a half a pond at a time and take 2 years to do a pond. We have, and I think, to me, that's plan A, is to do it the way we were going to do it with O&M money for the most part. And plan B is if we get the funding, we'll go faster.
So to give you an example, we applied on the Gateway side for 26 ponds 2 years ago after Ian. Obviously, we took that same concept that Doug just mentioned and we said, we're going to still proceed and do our thing. If this money comes through, then great, it is what it is. So we completed 5 of those ponds that were on that original list, so we're only doing 21. We asked for as much as we could get, and always come in under. Going over is unlikely. So What started out as 26 is now 21, and that's what we've been, we were awarded up to the 26 pond dollar value, but we're only using 21, and you only pay your 25% of what you spend.
Now, is this the same way that a grant would work where you put the out-of-pocket there and then they pay you back?
Yes, it's reimbursement.
Yeah, and
Very
but
few grants front money anymore.
just so you know,
Sadly.
in the
Yeah.
if you read all the words I put in this thing for the grant, it's really going to cost us about 25% of the thing, plus there's a 15% with some of the terms that are required for the grant. It will add about 15% to our cost to do, when we go to do the bid. So we're taking that into account too. Okay? Only other thing is Jim is working with Tetra Tech on the warranty on Pond 36. We have some issues they're dealing with the warranty work on Pond 36 that we completed last year. And Jim is working with Tetra Tech, and I think even the staff on that, as they get those things resolved. And I think we'll get through this just because of the fact that C&B Civil is out here doing work today, doing restoration for you guys, for Gateway. That's all I have. I'm sorry it took so much time.
You're fine.
But,
It's a lot of
any
good
questions?
information.
While you're on ponds, I just want to mention one other thing. Mr. Geppert at the last board meeting brought up the review, the district's review of the pond standards. So the district, I'll say the Gateway side. The Gateway side has a formally adopted pond standard that the board has approved and adopted in their forum. Pelican has what I'll call an informal pond standards that has not formally been adopted by the board. It was requested at the last meeting, since we are one district, to try to merge those two documents. And so the board said have staff work with the ponds subcommittee, since they are subject matter experts, and see if we can come up with one cohesive document. So that is on their docket moving forward. And then that recommendation will come back in front of the board. That way we have one standard for the district.
And you guys will be looking at littorals.
Yes.
I'm
Are you-
sorry, I smile at that.
Are you going to try and reconcile these documents
Yes.
with the workshop?
We're going to try to reconcile them internally first, and then we're going to present those to the ponds subcommittee. So I got both of them. Doug, they're in your ponds folder on SharePoint. Both documents in Word version are there. So we're going to work on combining and then going through workshop one by one, line item, and address it. Or if you so choose to have a designated sub.
In the past, Pelican was more robust.
Yep.
It might not be on those words or detail.
We're gonna work with your pond subcommittee and bring that
Thank
to
you.
fruition.
That'll be a really good thing. Okay. Anything,
From a safety and security standpoint, they're going to be starting the repaving of Aviano and Ravenna. I think it's the 21st?
21st through the 25th.
21st through the 25th, so that's ongoing. And I think Rich has finally found all the pieces and parts, or acquired pieces and parts for the speed monitoring signs, so you'll start seeing those around the various neighborhoods from time to time, so.
Can the speed monitoring be adapted to tell whether a car comes to a full stop or not at a stop sign?
I don't think.
I asked Rich that and he answered.
I don't believe so,
Not on
but
the equipment that we have.
if,
Not to say you couldn't get some.
you might be you might get a sense of that if you placed it at the stop sign, depending on where it looked at.
I'd also
I
ask,
don't
so
know.
what are you going to do with that information? We know the run and stop signs.
City of Fort Myers can't.
Get a camera and.
The speed has already begun to slow down in the community, if you haven't noticed. The running of stop signs has begun to slow down. So I wonder why.
I don't know, the three-way stop when you first come in,
Oh,
Some-
no, there's that one, they run like,
some cars don't even slow down.
they don't see it, they just, you're right.
The bicyclists don't stop for anything.
Correct.
And I think we're still waiting on Chelsea on the Florida Power and Light streetlight design.
I just got the plans today. He's putting together the presentation, and it will be at the next Safety and Security Subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
On the 24th, as I
Yes.
recall.
So how long is our contract company that collects the data from our speed
believe that was a annual.
It's an annual service fee.
Subscription.
So is it still good?
Yes.
And John is not here for landscaping. I have been in contact with Mark, and he just said that with the rainy season looming, that we are doing a lot more planting. You probably have seen actually some of that going in. They were pulling out some really old big bushes the other day and putting in new calusa hedges. Thank you. And so he said there's that, and the monument painting is continuing ad nauseum.
Pretty big dent though.
Yeah, and it is. We're moving along. You're seeing less and less of the brown and more of the new color scheme. So we appreciate their efforts on that.
Peggy, before you jump to the next item, while Daniel is here, just so I can go back to his office, he did tender his resignation. We are sad to see him leave.
Daniel.
Uncle Sam called and said he's got to go do Army stuff, so
Okay.
we can't say no to that. I don't think he can either, so.
Didn't have a say in the matter, that's for
Is
sure.
that a resignation though, if you're called to duty?
It's going back to active duty full time, so I can technically leave the position for 5 years, but I'm not gonna do that to Chelsea.
So
What's the timing on that?
April 28th is his last day.
Wow,
and,
that's quick.
we will be actively recruiting that position. We'll be posting it internally and externally, hopefully by the end of today, if not tomorrow. And I'm confident in the team that he has built, that although he will be leaving a pretty big hole in our organization, that he has built a great team that will be able to continue on and the residents will not suffer. So we wish him the best.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you
Great.
for all the
Thank you,
work you've
Daniel.
done.
Got to go to the Army.
Okay. And we'll move on to items for discussion 8A, which is the new member selection recommendation. And as I recall, we have 3.
Peggy, last meeting,
Yes.
we postponed this decision because missing a member here. So shouldn't we postpone this until next meeting when we have 6 members?
My only concern with that is the budget to work on and our eyes on that better. But your point is taken.
Just keep in mind, your recommendation has to go in front of the board, and they meet the first and third Thursday of the month.
What do you?
I think we need to move.
I say we move forward.
I appreciate Marty's comment.
We've got 3 candidates, are all 3 of them here?
All right, well, in the intention of efficiency, let's okay. We'll start with Bill. Bill, we pushed you off last month, and I apologize for that. You would have had to get pushed off again. That would have been brutal. Would you like to come up and just talk about what your intentions are for the group and answer any questions?
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill Strico. The application doesn't give a lot of room for background and experience, but I think most of you know me, so I won't waste a lot of time on that. The reason why I became interested in filling the vacancy is because I see a change coming in the relationship between the PPCA, the PPAC, and the district over the next year or two. It's going to probably be a rather radical change in the relationship that may very much affect budgets, responsibilities, working groups. And I think it's important that this group have as much background and talent and experience in relation to both the community and the PPCA and the district as possible. I've had pleasure or displeasure, pain of being the liaison between the PPAC and this group and the district board of supervisors during my first year on the board. I was sent out to do some things that required me to break some dishes, which wasn't exactly the happiest time of anyone's life. But I learned a lot, know a lot about the function of this group, working groups, and the district. And I'd like to contribute some of that history and knowledge to making the transition I see coming being the most beneficial as possible for both the district and the community. I guess, what questions do you have for me?
I actually have one question.
Sure.
On several occasions, I heard you talk about this group as unelected volunteers who are making decisions about our money, and it was a disparaging tone. And so I'd like you to comment on what your intention was with that, and how would you balance being on this board if you not look at it as legitimate?
It wasn't a matter of legitimacy at all. That comment was made in relation to the way the working groups were operating in the past.
But you were speaking
Subsequent to that
specifically
time.
about this group when you were saying that.
Well, this group and the working groups, yes. And that has changed, as I think both the district and its attorney and the community association began to understand the real requirements of the Sunshine Law. There were activities that were happening at the working group level that were somewhat at odds with good practice and the law at the time. One of the things I said I was sent out to do was to address those issues that caused the need to make some strenuous objection to some of the things that were happening at the time. I don't think that's the case anymore.
So, you know, I've been pretty vocal about the future relationship between community association.
Sure.
At one point, when you were running for treasurer, or not for treasurer, for the board, we're pretty emphatic that we should not be part of this district.
I think eventually that would be a logical progression. Most development districts, once their bonds have been paid off, go away. They return the assets to the communities or to municipalities or other governmental agencies like the city or the county. I think Chelsea once said this is the oldest existing development district in the state of Florida. And it is continuing to renew itself. But there is a question as to whether or not that renewal should extend to the extent of its involvement with Pelican Preserve. There's good logic to say that some of the functions of the district that currently are done by the district in Pelican Preserve could be done by the association or by the community or by the city or the county, going forward. And those, I think, have to be realistic considerations. You're not going to ask about budgets, Marty? Damn, I'm surprised.
Because you were ready, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I prepared.
Bridges.
Bridges.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Bill. We
No, thank
appreciate
you,
your
Peggy.
time. Let's move forward and get Patricia.
Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Zimmerman. I've been a member of Pelican Preserve and a resident there since 2017. I got here just in time for Irma. So it was quite an awakening about what this community is and how we would work together to stay informed. And one of the first things I did was nominate myself, and I was approved to be on the first communications committee. One of the things I insisted we do was to let everybody know what that first board was up to. And they were busy doing all sorts of wonderful things for our community, but nobody knew about it. So one of the things I would like to bring to this body is a similar attack to make sure everybody really understands what you're doing, what is important about what you're doing, and to help bridge that information back to the residents. This is something I feel strongly about. I've done this all my life, been in presidents of HOAs and done their communications as well. This is something I'm very very happy to bring my talents to you and to help you out. First of all, I think the CDDs exist all over the state, the city. This is not unusual to us. Every particular area has a community development district. So I don't know how that would be dissolved or how it would change, but there's definitely work that can be done to make sure we work smoothly with the Pelican Preserve community, and I'd be helpful to do that.
Questions for Patricia? You
Don't go
prefer?
anywhere, Patricia.
Oh,
No, I'm going anywhere,
Questions?
kiddo.
Okay, don't be too harsh on me,
No,
Tom.
I'm not. So I'd like to know your position on the relationship between Pelican Preserve community and Gateway.
The communities, was that a plural?
No, the community.
The
PPCA.
community and Gateway.
Mhm.
Well, I understand that there's been, and I thought some of the work that was put out was quite informative about the relationship between the two and what would possibly be turned over to the community of Pelican Preserve and how that would work. I think there's a lot to be said about taking charge of some of those amenities and areas. However, we all know that's going to cost money. That's going to cost us to have a lot more people involved in the way we run our community. And so I think it's still up for grabs. I would not push for that unless we have the ability to tell and persuade our community that this is a good idea. Anybody else?
Yeah, I see here where you're on, have been or are on several committees. You're a golfer, you're a card player, you do all sorts of things. So do you have time for this particular group?
Oh, that's a great question. I have dissolved my responsibility on the communications committee. So I do play a minor role on the emergency response committee, but that is really the only thing I am doing other than just enjoying myself. And those opportunities, of course, are not mandatory. And I do feel I have the time to offer my services in another capacity. So thank you for the question.
I would have to say that golf is mandatory and playing cards is mandatory, so.
As you see, I
Yeah,
just walked off the golf course this morning to come here. So.
Thank you very much.
With regard to communications,
Don't run.
with regard to communications, we printed up flyers. We've got refrigerator magnets that I pass out at all the board meetings and the new orientation. Yet people don't know what the district is. How would you improve that communication?
Well, I think a lot of it is quality as opposed to quantity. And I can't really give you a final response right now how I would do that. But I do think we need to really work harder at explaining the importance of our relationship and the advisory committee and what you all do. How would we do that? I mean, we do have access to flyers in the community. We have access to going to the coffee talks and being present at the president council meetings. We have access to reaching a lot of different groups. So I think we just have to keep at it. I think we have to just keep at it. But I have a good working relationship with Adriana, who's the head of communications for KW, and we could easily work with her to figure out how maybe to use the website that we have. And the communications committee, when I was on it, we were the ones that redesigned the website, and we're about to go through another redesign, I understand. But without the help of the volunteers, we wouldn't have the communications we currently do, and I'd like to move that forward. Is that vague enough for you?
You know, I hand out these flyers at the Brokey Center, and people leave, and they leave them on the table.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Patricia?
Thank you.
Now you can go.
Thank you all for your work and your help.
Okay. We don't have Joe here, correct? Benowitz or?
You met Joe? I know he was recently recommended by Joe Bogan to be CC. Now, again, recommended, the board is not approved. That's all I know of him. He stepped forward, he was looking to get involved, and got with Joe, that he was interested in doing that. Joe recommended. I bet he don't want to review that, just back up.
Can't even read.
I managed to, I got him a hard clip.
I don't know that it says how long.
I don't think it says how long he's been. No. But I'm assuming he's new only by his comments. I want to be involved and active.
Want to be a voice.
Right there.
Counselor, administrator, and government department head, realtor, degrees in counseling and criminal justice.
Safety and security.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
He must not wrote a lot of reports for the,
Yeah. Does anybody know why he is not here today? I'm assuming he got an invitation. Chelsea?
I'll have to find out.
And it could be a miscommunication there as well.
I didn't receive.
We might not be aware that.
Patricia, did you get an, so there was no invitation? And then I have to assume that's why.
So he doesn't know that it's advantageous to be
Yeah, right.
new on the block.
All right, well, we've got three very viable candidates. I guess the question would be, what are our weaknesses? I mean, to have a,
We have, I'm looking to say this compliment Ed, both bring it. Have that right now. It Bill was certainly. As Patricia said, she brings the patient
yeah,
side.
and that is definitely, in my mind, a weak spot. And then Joe is kind of a,
unknown.
unknown. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I would take Joe off. I'm not trying to be unfair in doing that. I think I'm making an assumption when I say it, that he's never heard the name until I just heard it from Joe Bogan. He seems to be reaching out, wanting to get involved in his community. Might not really know what the role of this advisory committee is. So it's up to you, but I would perhaps suggest that come on.
Appreciate your. All right.
I'd like to reiterate that. Missing a member.
Note and appreciate your
Another thing, just to point out, the vacancy, Nancy, she was very involved in the landscape side. So I didn't ask, and maybe I should have. And if either one of you want to comment, please do. But do one of you have an interest in or knowledge of landscaping components?
John Barry has.
John's taken that over
He's
for now.
taken that over. Yep.
Right, and that's.
I mean, the things that we've got are the intangibles.
If it's worth anything, I just looked up the transaction history on Joe's home, and it looks like it was purchased in August of 2024. So your
he is
your
real.
assumption that he's new is
He's
is
new.
Thank you
accurate.
for
real.
doing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And probably has really no clear understanding of
Well,
what this
but
is.
good on him for applying.
Yeah, well, he's reaching out to get involved in the community. He
Yeah.
said he's only, has been recommended to the.
Do we feel at this point we want to make a recommendation?
That's like. You're only gonna have two candidates, so we're down to the two candidates. If we discuss them, we're 3-2, then the best you're gonna get is, and if you're 3-2, maybe you wanna wait and get get John, there's input. You're kind of in agreement, I don't, this person, share what Mark's saying.
I'm not sure we need to continue to push it down the road, though. I mean, we do have two candidates here. And,
It's been for several months now.
yeah,
May I make a suggestion to ask
Absolutely.
both of the residents that are here, that are applying? If they're full-time and you're getting ready to go into summer, if there's any extended vacations planned, that may impact your quorum.
Oh, excellent question.
We've had that issue with our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, so something to contemplate.
Both are full-time, correct? Tricia, you're full-time?
You take what? I'm sorry.
I'm full-time, I'm resident. I do take time off.
What does that mean, take
yeah.
time off?
If you, make sure you come to a mic if you're gonna,
Well,
can you come up here to the mic so we can capture it?
That's one thing you learn, you have to talk into the mic.
Because there's
Yes.
people online that.
no, I am a full-time resident, but this summer in particular, I am taking off about 4 weeks over a couple of months.
But not one solid block. You might have a week here, a week there.
Correct, yeah.
So without knowing the schedule, shouldn't have an impact.
yeah.
It
We,
could.
we all do that.
Yeah.
I'll be gone in June.
And Bill, you're here. Here, why don't you
Yep.
come up there?
Thank you. I don't yell, what are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're full-time, and as with Patricia, you know, we'll take a couple of weeks off in July. We're going to be in Europe for a couple of weeks, and other than that, we're here. Sorry.
Fancy.
Well, yeah,
Hopefully somewhere fun.
Paris and London, no.
You didn't say where.
I think we got two great candidates. And Bill, I've worked with you. I appreciate that very much. We work good together, but I am concerned about breaking of the dishes. And that does concern me, so I'm going to nominate Patricia.
So we've got, Alan has nominated Patricia to fill the open seat.
Motion?
Have a second. Oh,
The motion.
That was the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Second for discussion.
Second for discussion. I concur. I mean, I think there's a lot of value in both of them. I do believe that Ed's got a good handle on finances, integral into what's happening with all of the changeovers. So I feel our gap is truly the communications and just general getting our faces and our work in front of our audience.
Somebody other than Marty to hand out brochures.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they'd be successful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Marty.
So I went to the new resident orientation meeting. There were 15 residents signed up.
How many came? Any more discussion?
I'm looking at Chelsea, and I don't know how to ask the question I wanted. Does she see a special need?
Oh,
We lack.
that is an excellent question.
Definitely.
I don't want to put you in a spot on the future.
Yeah,
person.
no, it's fine. Communication, you know, we have Randy, who's our PIO, but we've talked about having the committees or committee chairs at least vet the material that goes out. So if you all see that as a weakness, I mean, you're the ones who live in the community, you talk to your neighbors, you know, obviously people see construction equipment, they know something's going on, but they may not know the particulars. So we can always be better in communicating, regardless if it's here or if it's on the just like on the Gateway side, on our projects. Communication is key, so we can always improve on that.
That was brought up at the public hearing.
There's the lady back there.
Would you want to come up here?
Sure.
I'll open the floor.
Just make sure you identify yourself for me.
Even where my name tag.
Oh, nice.
Maxine Hansen out of Trentino Estates. I think communication is one thing we're lacking in Pelican. The reason I was secretary treasurer of Trentino, Phil Measy, whoever a lot of people know, has been on the board, many boards, many different committees. He would say, well, there's the GSCDD, there's the PPAC, there's the PPERT. Go, what the heck is this? And I'm just a resident that was made the secretary treasurer, and now I'm the president, so I'm going to all these meetings just to find out the clarity. And I'm on the board. I mean, I can imagine when I talk to my next door neighbor and I said, Daryl, I need you on the PPERT. He goes, what exactly is that? And then today at the president's thing, they're going to give us a copy. So I tried to explain to him, communication, I think, is underrated. Exactly. And I think that, I mean, when I came from my board today, the President's Council, I went home and typed up a summary of what we discussed, etc., sent it to my secretary treasurer and my vice president, trying to keep them in the loop.
It's an ongoing challenge.
Send it to the presidents, let them, because that's where it breaks down there. So send it to the community presidents, let them.
She's one of them, though.
I am one
I
of
don't
them.
know,
I
I'm
was
saying
at the
for
meeting.
her to go ahead and
Oh.
share it with those that were there
Oh.
this morning.
But that's
Exactly.
what Cece does.
Well, yeah, Cece takes forever.
Oh, Marty. Get out.
No, Cece's fantastic.
Very brave.
Thank you, Maxine.
Cece does a great job, I'm teasing her.
Joe Schofield from Carina. I've been in a number of meetings recently where communications has been a big issue. I've sat and I've heard Carol Brokey express to the CDD, she will send out what she considers important information. I wrote Carol a note and said, how do you categorize important information?
Bingo results.
I never got an answer. She came here and talked to the CDD last meeting, and same thing. Well, I send out stuff that's important. Our board, and Tom, you were on our board, you know their attitude towards communicating. Bill Sirico here, Mr. Bill, told me when I was trying to recruit for landscaping that it wasn't their job, and he was no way in hell going to put anything in our master board or our PPCA newsletters. And it wasn't even me sending it out. It was the President's Council trying to send it out. That created an issue. There has been no real connection of the hip. And I have said the CDD, Pelican Preserve Community Association, and PPAC are all connected at the hip. And surgically, there's not a doctor which would sever that at this point. And communication, somehow, our master board has got to figure out how they can communicate stuff. I've just been asked to join a committee on Gateway, and I have accepted that. And communication is one of the issues. They're doing things over here and our people don't know about it. We had that meeting a couple weeks ago. People said, we didn't know Gateway was doing that. That's because our board doesn't communicate it because it's not their business. I encourage you strongly to deal with our new board.
Board does. We're
That's
talking
it. Well,
about what
I encourage you strongly to work with our new board and have them put the link in for Gateway so people can click on it. They say, we're not interested in Parks and Recreation or this and that. We have grandkids coming to Pelican Preserve all the time.
The link
They
is
would
there.
probably love going to
Joe,
some of
you're
this
off
stuff.
topic.
Yeah.
I've said enough, but
All right.
you've got my
We
perspective.
appreciate your
We
perspective.
are connected.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? We feel we've got enough information to make a decision, even if Marty doesn't want to? Are you going to abstain?
You need another
I don't think I
nomination if
can
you
abstain.
want
Sorry, Marty. You can't.
He seconded.
You can't abstain.
So you want to call for a vote?
Yeah. So do we need to have another, because you seconded it for discussion, do we need to have another
No,
motion?
it's for discussion, that's all the motion does.
I have the motion by Alan, seconded by Marty. Or,
By-
no.
I just second my only purposes,
Okay. I just-
formality, I did
Okay.
it for discussion
Tom.
purposes, but
Got it. Okay. All right. I will say yay.
Yay.
Yes.
And you can't say abstain.
Aye.
All right. We thank you both for your attention to this, and we appreciate your coming forward. Patricia, welcome. We'll get you in front of the Board of Supervisors for acceptance at their next meeting, which is
17th.
17th.
I've asked Georgia
Yeah.
to get it on.
I would encourage Bill to stay involved.
Oh,
Obviously, he
absolutely.
will.
There's some ponds committee, they're recruiting for volunteers.
As Maxine said, P-PERT.
There's also an open creation subcommittee.
There is.
Oh, that's a
Which
lot.
could be a very interesting one for a Pelican person to be on.
Okay. All right, let's move along. It's 3:05 now. We've got the item 8B, which is the fiscal year 2026 budget discussion. Before we jump into that, we're talking about the need to have a workshop to really delve into this. That's not going to take up the time of a regular meeting. And initially, I thought potentially we could do it on the, I think it's the 17th was our next meeting. No, it's the 8th,
Of May?
May
8th,
8th.
second
Yes.
Thursday.
But would there be benefit to having it like on May 2nd? Is there availability of staff? I mean,
We do workshops, but they're all public meetings, right?
exactly.
But we can't really make decisions at a workshop.
There's no decisions. It's purely discussion. And then
That is a Friday.
that is a Friday.
I mean, that would be the opportunity to have the subcommittee chairs walk through their budgets, because right now we don't have any of that information yet.
So you are aware of kind of the tentative timeline that we have set forth?
Can you say it again so everybody's on the same?
Yes. So the intent is to have a full-blown draft of the document that you see in front of you, in front of the board at their first May meeting, which is May 1st. So we're hoping to compile everybody's recommendations between now and then. Understanding this is a first blush, we have to have this adopted by June 15th for our high water. So really, we wanted to get this, we had capital projects discussed at the last board meeting. We have personnel being discussed at next week's meeting. And then we're all putting together our budgets, your subcommittees. I believe we've gotten them their version, their snippet of the Pelican budget. So between now and then, they will be discussing budget as part of their meetings.
So it sounds like we will need to have our workshop prior to the 1st then?
That's what I would suggest.
So
Or after we see what put together, and then we can make adjustments to ours on the 8th.
Well, who's going to be putting it to what silos if we don't? Or is that going to be done by Stephen?
We would put it together in the board ultimately. I mean, it's really by category. So your safety and security, other than like the police contract that goes to general admin, most of those are already in place because of how you have your subcommittees laid out. So it's any nuances that would come up, and obviously you would have input and you'd make a recommendation, but the board would review and make that final decision.
I mean, we won't, as I get it, we won't see what the subcommittees are proposing until it's part of the May 1st board meeting. So then our workshop needs to be after that, because we won't have seen what the subcommittees have presented.
how did the subcommittees go around you?
Yeah, that's my question.
I don't see
we need to
how
see
that
what they're
happens.
submitting first?
Well, that's
That would be
why
my-
why you really need to have
So
something in
we
between
need to
now
have
and May
the
1st.
subcommittees report.
Well, that's why if you've
Am I
got
wrong?
you've got two tracks going on here, and yeah, ideally, they would present it to us and then it would go into the board, but we're at this time frame where they have to present it to the board. So I guess, Chelsea, you've asked the subcommittees to prepare their budgets for inclusion in that. We will see that on the agenda for May 2nd board meeting. That'll be the first that we will see it as P-PAC, because we don't have a meeting between now and then.
Unless you make a special one.
Unless we have a workshop before that to review it. If we do a workshop after the first, before our May 8th meeting, we can then make adjustments at our May 8th meeting before, that would then go to the board for their approval on the 1st of June.
Can I make a suggestion?
Love to hear.
So the landscape subcommittee, the safety and security subcommittee both meet on the 24th, which is exactly 1 week prior to the May 1st meeting. So ultimately, we'll be posting the agenda for the May 1st on Friday, the 25th, the full packet. We can post the agenda on the week in advance, but the packet on the 25th. At that point, we'll have those numbers from your subcommittees. Anywhere between the 25th and the 1st, you guys could meet and we could try to incorporate on the fly as part of presenting to the board if there's any amendments to your numbers. That way they can see a live version. And most of the time we just run through by fund what's been presented and if there's any comments or questions. And then
this is the high water mark budget,
yes,
which last year it would have been about a 15% increase, but then we made adjustments later on before the final budget. And
Well, I can do the 29th or the
September.
30th, just to tell you, I'm wide open on the 29th or the 30th.
Why don't we meet the 25th?
Peggy, one comment. Historically,
who are you?
Bob?
Bob Geppert, I'm sorry. Historically, P-PAC has always gotten it from the subcommittees before it went forward. They've
Absolutely.
never gone around. I don't know what's going on with timing this year.
I can explain the timing.
Okay.
So
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, if they meet, but just historically.
so you all understand, May 1st is on, the May meetings are early in the month. And then same thing with June, the June 15th, those dates are early. So we lost really 2 weeks worth of time just because of how the dates fall this year. So that's what, it's somewhat cumbersome right now. So that's why I would suggest sometime between the 25th and the 30th, you have a special workshop that you only discuss what has been presented by your subcommittees.
The 29th, 30th.
What does the room look like for?
You tell me what day and I can look.
This one. How long are you gone?
I leave the
Then you know how you're gone.
What about the afternoon? What times are the meeting? Are they morning? Will they be done?
For
they're in the morning.
9 and
We're
11.
in the morning.
That won't be enough time for Laura to throw it in the numbers. That's what you've got to at least give her half a day to be able to plug in
They're
their
on the
numbers.
25th?
I think
They,
we should-
they meet on the 24th,
Yeah,
so.
I think we
25th, we
should
would
meet
be
the-
okay, though.
I think we should meet the 25th.
25th? Does that work for you?
It works for me. Alan, he's out all.
I'm flying out on the 25th. That's
Well,
okay.
you're gonna have to just stay.
Yeah.
Ed,
Yep.
Ed, did they work for you, the
That works for
25th?
me.
Okay.
It
What-
would work
Oh,
for
wait,
me.
April.
And-
What time?
Um,
This room is pretty much wide open.
do you wanna try for the morning? Or, wait, we need to give Laura time to get it in. If she,
One or two.
one or
You know,
two,
do like your normal time at 2.
let's do that.
So what we're gonna do, just so you know, because we have to post it a
I
week in
know.
advance. And you may want to ask your recommended committee member if they're available as well. Okay. Because we are closed on Good Friday, we're gonna have to post the agenda next Thursday, and it's not gonna have any backup support. It's just gonna be the
Discussion.
required agenda, yes.
We may not have any backup support until we walk into the room anyhow. So, I'm good with that. So, technical question here in terms of attendance. I'd like her to be there.
Mhm.
May Patricia attend and may she participate? Will she have been approved by the Board of Supervisors by then?
I don't know if they'll approve her, but we are taking your recommendation to the board on the 17th, and if
Okay.
approved, she'll be a
On the
full
assumption that
committee of-
she is, so I just want her to put it on her calendar if
Yes.
possible.
So April 25th at 2 PM in this boardroom.
Correct.
Special workshop, budget only discussion.
Correct. Doug, did you have
1400.
something?
Yeah, Doug Zanner, Ponds Group, I just want you to know on Tuesday, that was on our agenda, the budget that we just had at our Ponds Group meeting. I think Chelsea, either you or Laura or someone put it on the agenda, and we talked through the budget. and I'll be able to give you a spreadsheet. I'll give you one tomorrow. I think, should I give it to you, Laura?
Laura needs,
both?
Laura's the keeper of the budget, for sure.
Okay, but I'll copy you on that,
Thank you.
Peggy, so you have it since you're our liaison, not because you're the president of the board, but, so we did that with the board, our committee or whatever, subcommittee, we did that on Tuesday. And
Fantastic.
one of you put that on the agenda. I don't know if it was you, Chelsea, or Laura.
Well timed.
Laura
But-
did it.
Well, you knew that I wouldn't meet again for quite a while,
Yeah.
and so we completed that on our meeting. I just want you to know.
Always an overachiever, Doug.
He is, isn't he?
I wouldn't have did it if you didn't put it on.
Chelsea, I know we've got basically the blank worksheet here.
Uh-huh.
I've got a couple questions, I
Okay.
guess.
Do my best.
With the new methodology
Mhm.
and ponds, the flowway is, will ponds need to have a separate line item for their budget for the Basin 6 flowway maintenance, since flowway is aggregated out and allocated separately from the ponds under the new methodology?
I do not believe so, because it'll be incorporated as part of their contract with whatever that vendor is. And waterway stays within Pelican. It's not segregated out like they had discussed to just those parcels.
The ponds, but the flowway, under the new methodology, it is separated out. All the flowway is separated and allocated
Not,
based.
so the flowway behind Winn-Dixie, that cost and expense and the maintenance of that is going to stay within Pelican. The Area 9, the Flowway 1, those.
Basin 6.
the Basin,
2 and 3.
Flowway 2
Okay.
and 3, that is going to be shared, and that's going to be its own separate line item.
The methodology was, both of those were combined and then the total shared. But because there was only a credit then to, or an additional amount to Pelican, because the flowway behind Winn-Dixie was almost the same amount as what it would be if it was shared. But that was because there was a $12,000 estimated cost to that. I believe it has to be identified as a line item so that it be combined with the flowway on the 002 budget and then allocated out separately as flowway, separate from the ponds, according to the methodology that was published.
To my knowledge, you can have it as a separate line item. It's still going to stay within the Pelican budget. That is what it is.
But it's the total of that plus 002.
Nathan, you need to mute yourself.
Otherwise, we're getting double dinged on flowway charges. We're paying for Pelicans and we're paying for.
You're paying for, okay, back up. The flowway directly behind Winn-Dixie, the total, because Pelican is the only benefiter of that flowway, Pelican is paying the maintenance
paying for
cost.
that, right.
Okay, that stays within the 002. Area 9, flowway 1, 2, and 3, the board determined that those are mutually beneficial by everyone in Gateway. Okay,
I don't think that's not how it was, that's not how the methodology was documented.
okay, I'm just reporting on what I understand it to be. So that those common flowways in Area 9 shared amongst everybody. So I have to have those line items, those 4 things separated and have those costs allocated.
Well, I would like Doug to isolate out the Basin 6 flowway
You guys,
so that we know what the cost is, because this whole thing was based on certain estimated 25 costs. But if you go back and look at Russ's methodology, he took the 12,000 for Area 6, added it to the 002 budget, and then when he allocated it out, it was like 13,000 was Pelican share. So then he only incremented ours up $1,200 or something, and that. But he combined the two and then allocated them out.
and
so-
I'm not going to argue.
Okay.
From my interpretation is that was used as an example with the numbers to see what the impact would be. But my understanding of how the board approved those separations is exactly how I said. 6 stays within Pelican, everything else is shared. The common flowways is shared. Pelican continues to pay for and manage. You guys, if you want to add that line item in, you're more than
I
welcome
think
to.
we need to, because I don't,
Just to
I
be
think
careful.
the
So
board
annoying,
will have to address that, because that's not what his, anyway. No, I know, but it's more for the board, because otherwise we're getting double dipped on flowway costs.
Can we
The-
validate that your understanding is what's actually transmuted into the
Mhm.
methodology?
before we do it,
The next question is landscaping. How are we going to separate the cost for landscaping for tree line? Because right now that's in Ameriscape's budget. How is that going to be separated out and charged to, does that have to? be
Very easy. Very easy.
Very easy?
Very easy.
Okay.
The bid, when it was solicited, had outside the gate and inside the gate. Already, we had already separated that. So we have the true price from Ameriscape for everything outside the gate.
So that $160,000 is going to go into the 002 budget?
It will go, no, that goes into the general fund because they said that they wanted to treat it like Gateway, like everything else. So that money would move into the general fund because it's shared amongst that, and then he does his formula.
But then there is also that little space that,
Okay.
I'll have to get an amendment from Ameriscape and get a cost and actually amend the contract, and then they will invoice that separately from everything else.
To the 002. What about the other parts other than the base of Ameriscape? Tree trimming, all of that, that's all part of tree line. Because right now, that, if, we haven't even seen the bids from Ameriscape and some of that. I've looked out online and I can't find them. So I know we approved the total amount, but I couldn't find that breakdown where it was.
Send an email.
Okay. But that was for their base landscaping, 575. But there's irrigation, there's tree trimming, there's all the other elements of that. So a portion of those need to be moved to that. So Mark really needs to be looking at his budget as just a portion of the non-tree line right-of-way portion.
Correct. And then,
And that's
then what we'll do is we'll look at the tree line portion, and we know what the Ameriscape is. We need to look and see how many palm trees are out there, if there's any oaks, what needs to be, and, because I think it's just mainly the medians. And we'll have to add those numbers in on that side.
So his numbers should reflect the current budget's less tree line, which would be basically probably a 200,000 subtraction from his current budget. If you can believe that Ameriscape quote, so, okay.
I think Tom had a question.
well, I'm waiting to see what it is, and then I'll get in.
Okay.
The operating expense,
Mhm.
should that be changed title-wise to Public Works, because it's?
This sheet, just for purposes of you guys to start to crunch your numbers, is last year's sheet.
Yeah.
Okay, we are waiting on the updated sheet from Russ and Steven. That way we can get rolling. Well, mainly Steven, so that way we can get rolling on it.
and
But
we
my-
will have that by the 25th.
Yes.
But my understanding is that the Public Works staff, this doesn't even have the labor above it, that's being put into, being allocated out. So we'll be paying about 31% of the labor items above that.
17. You guys pay 1/3 of 50.
Yeah, well, Public Works, Enterprise pays part of Public Works.
No. Okay, you're only calling out that department, not the total.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we pay 31 per. Huh?
Oh, if you live in New Pelican, you pay. Yeah.
Under the new methodology, we basically, of the admin, we pay 31.5% based on EAUs of half. Public Works, it just gets split based on EAU, so it's only 31.5% of the total Public Works staff.
So to directly answer your question, I'll have to get with Laura. We're evaluating the nomenclature as well as we update.
Because it's I guess part of my question is, maybe it doesn't matter, but like electricity for the signs, that's really part of the landscape or the admin because it's not really landscaping. Utility irrigation is landscaping. Street lights, shouldn't those move down into the subcommittees? So that like the electricity for the street lights should move down into safety and security because that's the FP&L bills for
Yes.
street lighting. The utility irrigation, I believe, is irrigation from GSCD watering on Prado and some
Common
of those
areas,
boulevards. And electricity for the signs is basically the monument signs, which would move down into landscaping,
yeah.
and some of that. So that then all of those would be in the that's just something that,
yeah.
as we form the subcommittee, some of those things have pulled and moved down, and those are kind of stragglers that maybe ought to move too.
Yeah.
So I think the more we can make some of those adjustments as we move through this, rather than trying to do them later, might be better.
What we've done, what Laura and I have done on the side, mainly Laura, I can't take credit for it, she's done all the work, is put on the side what the silos are. So like as you're editing them, if you're printing it yourself, like exactly like you just said, should electricity, landscape.
I guess the other question is things like engineering and attorney fees. I know Tony's been charging them to the specific subcommittees. Should they be budgeted at that subcommittee
I
level?
would suggest yes, because of, even if you put a blanket dollar amount, because of how it's assessed.
Right, yeah. Because of the methodology.
Yeah.
And you'll be asked to do the same thing with reserves. So landscape and roads, they're one. So what you've done in the past is you've just said, we want to contribute $200,000 to reserves. What would happen on the back end is Russ would do a formula and he would split it by your silos and put that money. Now what we're doing it on the front end, and we're asking you to either suggest either a percentage or a flat dollar amount for capital reserves based on each silo.
Ed, this is Bob again, the only time you get any bill from Tony is when a subcommittee authorizes a task authorization. You don't get anything else. We pay the flat rate.
No, I know.
So it's only specific tasks. So you may not have any in a year.
No, but it's just like the landscaping easements, those get charged to landscaping.
That's all done now, but yes.
But it makes.
And there was a task authorization for that.
Right. No, it's just that if we put it in the budget, then that dollar gets allocated based on the proper methodology.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's up where it is now, it just gets allocated based on admin.
And then
Same
everybody
way
would
admin,
get one.
which-
So like what I would suggest you do is if you had put a nominal dollar amount, $5,000 in each category, and then under admin, because you are going to have an admin,
Right.
do a dollar amount there. That's kind of your catch-all for things that come up that aren't necessarily in one of those categories.
Okay.
So my monkey wrench, on the chance
On the chance.
that the methodology is either being held up for mediation or litigation, would we need to do two different presentations?
As of right now, we have an assessment methodology that has been approved by the board that is on the books, and that is how we're proceeding until we're told otherwise by our attorney. So we have a high water mark that we have to have approved by June 15th, and that's what we're aiming towards.
And I emphasize chance, not likelihood.
I understood about half of what Ed was saying.
That's
what-
the weed.
You know better than the rest of us.
But this budget, if I had it corrected, or had it figured out, right now it's about 9.4% increase. Does that include everything or not include everything? Does that include what we may be sharing as far as the new building? Does that include what this new percentage
No.
would be for
Just like you're putting
the
your
parks
budget,
and the pool and that sort of stuff?
just like you're putting your budget together right now, staff is doing the same.
And we will get a portion of that.
Yeah, so 9.4% could go up considerably.
They will.
Chelsea,
Even though you were shown it was only going to be $10.
you said, and I see here that you got a capital projects reserves for each of the areas.
Yep.
My guess is we won't add anything there because we're paying for our capital projects out of the O&M, funding them right now out of the O&M budget. What does that mean for our existing capital reserve or existing reserves? Are we going to have to go through and allocate those to the various?
No, right now, they're just
They'll
unassigned.
just be,
They're sitting in an unassigned
Reserves.
account. Well, you have unassigned and then you guys have by your categories, by your
Right.
subcommittees, but no, unless you choose to do that, that's totally your purview. But you don't have to put a dollar amount per category here for your reserves. This is, again, we had an internal conversation, Tony,
Yeah.
Stephen, Laura, myself, and Russ, and said, hey, this is how we need to put this out in the forefront instead of it being behind the scenes.
Well, it could be a very challenging meeting on the 25th, so I'm looking forward to that. I would encourage everybody who is a liaison to a subcommittee to get in touch with them, make sure they're prepared for their meeting on the 24th. I will actually, have you sent out the notice to the subcommittee leads? Because you were going to copy me on that, not gotten that.
I don't know if Laura has yet.
You being Laura.
Yeah, I will follow up with her and
Okay.
find out if she sent. I believe she did.
But she didn't copy me.
She might not have. I
Yeah.
can get it forward. I can forward it to you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and if not, can we make sure that they are aware that this is going to be something they have to decide
Yes.
at their meeting? And what if they don't have quorum?
Another wrench.
Yeah, yeah.
well, and they need to attend the workshop too.
Well, they should have asked at their previous meetings whether or not they were going to have quorum.
You feel confident there?
Safety, yeah, I do. As from what people said.
Doug, you have you're going to have a quorum?
Doug already had quorum.
They already.
Oh, you've already done it?
If not, we'll do their budget. It's a high water mark.
Put it in a done pile.
Landscape is under control.
Okay,
Well, a 9% increase is not under control.
Well, that's the beginning, Marty. They haven't applied all the new methodology.
Yeah, that's high water right now.
it'll be more.
But yeah, it's gonna be added,
It's
a
gonna
lot
be
of
20
added to
plus.
it, so it could be
Well,
more than 9%.
let's borrow that trouble when it's here. That didn't sound right.
It's okay. I know we look alike.
We budgeted for the overage on the admin building, and this year you said reserves and carryover. That's not gonna be, will they be dipping into that in this calendar year, or will some of that flow forward in the next year?
I am told that they should be completed by April 1st of 2024, with the majority of the 25. I heard you. You caught me. 26. Oh my
Will that be
goodness.
done by April?
There may be some carry forward that you may have of that allotment that you set that will need to move forward, but from what I'm told, the building is the main focus first, so those expenses should come sooner than later, and then the park stuff will come
Yeah, well,
later, so,
We didn't have any,
no,
they're gonna be done in the building in a year.
that's what they tell me. It's not, I mean, it's a single-story building that's,
Yeah.
and
block. All right.
Okay.
Any other discussion on budget for this point? Okay.
Is there,
Yeah, that-
my only request to you all, and I know that we kind of asked it of your subcommittees already, but if there are any capital projects beyond what you've seen so far, or any initiatives that you have in your mind that we need to go and try to get estimates on, we need some time to do that. And so, again, we know what your subcommittees have said, we know kind of what's on the docket, and we're working on getting those numbers for you. But if you as a committee have any suggestions, we need some ideas.
No, Marty, no bridges, Marty. No.
How many bocce courts is the Parks and Recreation Group going to put in?
Under the new, I believe there were either 2 or 4 bocce courts.
Okay.
No, but that, if that's April, that'll carry into this.
That's what I'm saying, you'll have some carry forward. Yeah, that you'll need to account for.
We've already got it.
All right, let's bring it back together here. Any member items? Marty?
I covered it with a question of the sign earlier.
Nope. Ed?
Nope.
Okay. Next meeting agenda, we will be having our budget workshop in between. But in May, can we get a formal closure on the fire credits? Because they have not been sold, and I'd like to at least put paid to that in our documentation. And let's see, what else?
What,
Hopefully,
Peggy, what are you envisioning that looks like? Like a notice from the city of Fort Myers that they've expired?
yes.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
something that shows that we haven't just left them dangling.
Yes.
Okay. And so it'll be budget at the next discussion. It'll be Patricia getting onboarded and pretty much.
I'd like to, again, she said she'd do that, see what's been committed out of it.
Yes, the change to the, to put the encumbered in the general overall financial document. Okay,
A month later, I will not be here for June to report.
well, I will not be here for June either. I will be online, but I will not. He will be drinking my big red Tuscan wines.
I'll be in the Dolomites.
Very nice. So will we have everybody here?
May.
I'm here
No,
May.
I'm talking May,
May, we're good.
I think we're good.
Yep.
June, both Tom and I are not present. Patricia, what's your, do you have any?
The date again?
June 12.
June 12th.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay. Everybody
So,
else? Okay.
Just to recap, so I'm clear. April 25th at 2 PM here in this boardroom, you have a budget workshop, and it's a single item workshop.
Correct.
And then for your May meeting, have we gotten to that point yet?
We were just starting to talk about
Okay.
that, and that's where I asked you about the fire credits.
All right, got that.
Okay. And then it's gonna be budget, discussion, continuation. Anybody else have anything, or is that gonna take up? Whatever the subcommittees come up with as well, we'll just deal with them.
The only thing that I will request, it's kind of informal now, and I know you got a report of it from Doug, is if you too recommend us applying for that HMGP grant.
Do you need our formal recommendation?
I would appreciate that.
Okay, do you want us to make a motion today?
Yes, because time is of the essence.
Okay, I will make a motion then that we move forward with any FEMA grant proposals, requests, that
Application, yep,
publications that were identified and
by your pond subcommittee.
by the concept. Second by Tom. All in favor?
I,
I don't know, let's ask you.
I shouldn't have.
Don't go there, don't go there.
Doge.
Doge. Okay, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Bravo, okay.
all right,
And I will be here for the June meeting.
thank you.
Another year older, but I will be there.
Indeed, yeah, all right,
So only 2 items on your May agenda?
let's just keep it at that for now.
At the moment.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Alan,
Tricia, Bill, thank you very much for
Second.
your coming and interest.
second by whom?